All right, so watching Good Morning Nigeria, we're reaching you live on the network service of NTA. Now, as a prompt for our conversation this morning, the Nigeria agenda and the 2023 elections. Here is a background report by Garba Naftala.
The Nigeria Agenda, an advocacy group comprising of like minds devoid of tribal and religious inclinations, are making efforts through series of initiatives. The group is made up of about 50 civil society organizations who seek to inculcate similar orientation in students, women groups, religious leaders, and other stakeholders. Their mission aims to foster national cohesion, togetherness, and unity as the elements needed for national growth and development. They believe divisive effects of tribalism and religious sentiments exhibited in Nigeria's politics continues to hold down the country's democracy and insist that politicians adopt to win the hearts of Nigerians by creating sympathy in every region during elections. They add that sentimental divisions erode the basis of our country's unity. The advocacy group seeks a change of attitude among Nigerians to avoid political bias from the angle of ethnicity and religion, to looking out for positive attributes of quality leaders who will bring meaningful development to the nation. The group advocates the bond, which unifies the nation as one invisible entity with a shared vision. In the northern part of the country, as well as the southern region, the advocacy group has reached out to leaders to shun regional agendas like Southwest Agenda, Northeast Agenda, among others, in the scheme of political affairs. Now that the advocacy group has identified the deficiency in leadership, what must Nigerians do to develop their capacity to identify and support the right leaders as the country approaches 2023? And how should the electorate mobilize during the election period? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be sharing their thoughts on how the electorate should key into the Nigeria Agenda advocacy in 2023.
Thank you very much, Garba Natala, for that backgrounder. We have guests seated in the studios here to discuss issues around that in further detail. Let's welcome Niyi Akinsiju, who is the chief advocate of the Nigeria Agenda. Niyi, of course, is a familiar face on Good Morning Nigeria. Niyi, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Nigerian.
Also here with us in the studios, another familiar face on Good Morning Nigeria, Ahmed Sajo, is convener of the Nigeria Agenda Advocacy. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians.
And as well, we have here in the studio Julius Ogunro, consultant to the Nigeria Agenda Advocacy. Julius, you're welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, gentlemen, let's begin. We listened to the background report by our correspondent, Garba. What informed the Nigeria Agenda Advocacy?
At this point in time?
Yes.
Yeah, I think there is no better time to start conversation around the subject of the Nigeria agenda than now. We noticed that as we move towards intense political activities, the usual discussions around agendas that revolve around our fault lines, region, religion, tribe, and things are becoming more and more vociferous. And we ask ourselves, who is even talking about the country itself? You cannot be a region without first having a country where you belong to a region. So we saw a lot of agendas here and there. And so we decided that, look, let's start talking about Nigeria. And we are not talking about Nigeria in just a vacuum. No, we're saying this Nigeria we're talking about, at the core of whatever we want to have for ourselves in a country called Nigeria, must be two very key factors. We must have shared values. We must have shared benefits. And what are those shared values? Shared values that we want Nigerians to begin to imbibe within the polity are equity, fairness, justice, and inclusion. And then the shared benefits will be peace, unity, and economic prosperity. And if we do not begin to engage, discuss, and put those things at the conversation, we'll continue to discuss individuals and individual ambitions without actually, constructing what are those ambitions supposed to mean for the ordinary citizen. So this is the essence of the Nigeria agenda discussion. And of course, we have also done a lot of studies, and we've discovered that you do not have a shared value as a people. You do not have shared benefit as a people unless you have an inspirational leadership that guides you towards coupling these shared interests, shared values, shared benefits. So we're looking at the nexus between good leadership and national prosperity. So these are the conversations we want in the political space. If you have a leadership in the country, what do you expect of that leadership? What should the leadership provide beyond who should be the leader? And so these are some of the conversations we are putting across in the Nigeria agenda.
Oh, okay, let's bring in Nii here, who is the chief advocate. You've had your colleague on what informed the advocacy. I'm going to ask you the same question as to what informed the advocacy, but I'm going to add something there as to who are your target, who are your target? Is it the leaders? Is it the ordinary Nigerians? Is it religious leaders, people who lead at different strata of society? And since you have visited about 5 zones of the country, what is your perception?
Yeah, thank you very much. Principally, if you talk about leadership, you are actually talking about followership, because even if you're looking at the social contract compact, it's a relationship between the followers and the leaders. What the followers do is the input that will get you the kind of leadership you want. So for me and for the Nigeria agenda, there's a symbiotic relationship between the followers and the leader. And for the Nigeria agenda, what we are talking essentially is to start encouraging and prompting the average Nigerian citizen, on understanding the context of its powers, as the Nigerian citizen. And I think there's this tendency for us to always look at the limitation of our fault lines, either in terms of leadership recruitment, because what we always insist is that the Nigerian citizen is actually the chief recruitment officer, for any political office holder. And it's a guaranteed power in the Nigerian constitution. Without the Nigerian citizen voting, you cannot get a Nigerian leader. And then it does mean that if we continue to complain about leadership at whatever level, in our governance structure, can we also start questioning our own capacity as citizens, as recruitment officers, to elect the right kind of people into office? And the extension of that concern is, what are those criteria we are looking at in determining the kind of leaders we want for ourselves at all levels? As a councillor, chairman, governor, representatives, and all that. Are we recruiting officers because they share the same religion with us? Are we recruiting officers because they share the same tribal ethnic grouping with us? Are we recruiting officers because they have money? We believe that they have more money, to spend for us. So it's actually about being in the face of the Nigerian people. Are we doing the right thing in the context of recruiting those who lead us? So that there is a tendency to always blame leadership. Can we also put the searchlight on ourselves, to understand the context of our own behavior, conduct, and tendencies in the way we determine who becomes what, in the Nigerian political firmament?
All right, Mayor Kinsiju, thank you. The consultant to the Nigeria Agenda Advocacy, Julius Ogunro, I would like you to speak further on what the broad strokes of the agenda are. Well, two things I can pick out from the comments made by Ahmed Sajo and Niyo Akinsijo. Two things. One, Ahmed Sajo tells us that the instigation for this is the, if you like, the noise in the air about 2023. And that political noise in the air tends to drown out the significant issue relating to Nigeria itself. That is to say, all the noise that we are making do not appear to relate to Nigeria's survival and growth and development. Niyo Akinsijo now takes out the other leg of it and says it is about leadership and the role of the citizens, whom he appropriately, in my opinion, describes as the chief recruitment officer, in foisting the kind of leadership that we have had on ourselves, and therefore how people should interrogate leadership, ultimate leadership recruitment by the recruiting officers themselves, namely the citizens. What else is this agenda about?
They've spoken more or less about the general features of the Nigeria Agenda project. It's a connection between our national aspirations and leadership. You know, we understand that we cannot achieve our national goals of peace, unity, security without appropriate leadership to drive and this process. So we came up with this idea that instead of sit on the sideline, instead of just be another face on TV, just talk about the issues and problems and challenges of Nigeria, that we can actually mobilize Nigerians, we can actually mobilize them to understand the issues that are important and what we need to do. And what we need to do is to ensure that we get the right kind of leadership. As we march towards 2023, there will be a lot of conversation about the kind of person to lead the country, not just for president, even for us governors and different strata of power. But we are interested in the issues that are important, the issues of peace, the issues of security. And we need someone who has the experience, who has the, in terms of the presidency, who has the experience, who has the compassion of heart, who has the skill set and can match the issues, the challenges of our country. Irrespective of the challenges we have, irrespective of the mineral resources we have in this country, if we do not have the kind of leadership that can drive the process, that can unite the people, that can help us achieve our goals, our national aspiration goals, we are just missing it. Nigeria is a very blessed country. We have a population of about 200 million people, about the 7th largest population in the world. We are the 3rd largest in terms of, linguistically diverse. We have more languages. We are the 3rd in terms of that. If you check in terms of fertility of our land, averagely Nigeria's land is more arable than the average in the world. I think about 37.3%, while the average in the world is about 26%. But all these things has not translated into growth and development for our country. You know, so if we do not get leadership right, if we do not get leadership and get the people to understand the issues so that they can go ahead and elect and get the right kind of leadership, we will not get it. So that in simple form is the Nigerian agenda. It's a connection between our national aspiration and leadership. So we are not sitting on the sidelines. We are going out there talking to the people, mobilizing them to understand the issues that are important or that ought to be important in 2023 and to look for when the time is right, and also to mobilize them to get their right kind of leadership. So that is what it is essentially. The Nigerian. That is what essentially it is.
Okay, thank you. Let's return to Ahmed Sajo. Three of you have actually raised a number of issues, very, very crucial, with respect to Nigeria as a nation. But we've all lived here for as long as I think all of us here. I mean, none of us is below 40, perhaps 50 and above, as the case may be, and we understand the historical trajectory of Nigeria in terms of leadership, in terms of selection of leaders and what have you. But if you look at that trajectory, you find out that a certain percentage of Nigerians have been in power for a very long time. Certain age brackets have been in power for a long time. And from the way things are going presently with respect to 2023 elections, it does appear also that the same category of persons are reappearing in both parties that are key as strong parties in Nigeria. Now you have, the focus of your agenda is for us to think Nigeria and the leadership, followership, and what have you. Is there any kind of change that you would expect in 2023 with respect to what you're doing at the moment? And I asked, my very first question, had to do with whom are you talking to? Who is your target? Is it the masses? Is it the leaders? Because for what we've learned, we've gone to 5 zones, you'll be talking to leaders. Right, and these are the leaders that fashion what happens during elections. These are the same people that are key elements in political parties. These are the same people who have the followers, who know what to give the followers to vote them into power. So I just want to understand exactly whom you people are talking to and how that will make sense and change the course of history of election and selection of leaders in Nigeria by 2023.
I think you are not getting it absolutely right. We were in Kano. The groups we met, the people we actually met in Kano, were local indigenous CSOs within the Northwest. They are not political. The political leaders that were there were very, very few. They were in the minority. Majority of the people we interfaced with were ordinary citizens that represent certain interest groups within the polity. If you see the pictures, you will see there are ordinary women, ordinary youth, ordinary people. In Bauchi, it was almost the same thing. In Port Harcourt, it was the same thing. In Oka, the ordinary people that they volunteered to be enlisted as ambassadors of the TNA. We had to provide them certificates of enlistment that they are going to, and they're ordinary, mostly student leaders, women leaders, market women leaders, youth leaders. These are the people. In Niger, it was the same thing. So what we're doing is, of course, we have a sprinkle of political leaders present, but majority of the people we talk to are ordinary citizens who have been engaging in conversations around the politics. Now you're talking about the group of people that have led this country. Yes, they have led this country for this long. In fact, this is at the core of our agenda. They've led this country. And if we must tell ourselves the truth, what have they done? First, they have widened our natural fault lines unnecessarily, made us into see each other with suspicion for no reason, for no apparent purpose. And secondly, the one that is more disturbing is that they have created the real gap that exists in this country today that should be of concern to all of us. The gap between those that are propertied, that have, and those that have not. And over the years that you are talking about, if you look at the trajectory of Nigerian political system, what we have been doing for all these years is building tiny islands of riches in vast sea of poverty. And we've been unable to mobilize people to realize that the divisions of the rich and the poor are the real divisions that we should be looking at, and are the real divisions that have the potential to pull this country down. We must find a way to bridge the gap, this social inequality that is widening, social and economic inequalities that are widening on a daily basis. We must find a way to bridge the gap of the lack of inclusion in our system. Notice what happened recently in the National Assembly with bills that have to do with empowering women. We're moving in a direction that cannot forge a strong, economically viable, peaceful and united nation. That's the truth about it. So these are the conversations we're putting in the public space. These are the conversations we're engaging political leaders, religious leaders, traditional leaders, then ordinary citizens, organized groups. we are engaging everybody that matters to discuss these issues. Say, look, you're looking at tribes and regions and religions, but we have poor people in all the tribes and the regions and the religions. We have rich people. We have poor people. We have the rich, more or less, come together to discuss, without considering their region and religion or ethnicity. The poor are the ones that are further subdivided into their ethnic and regional conclaves. And so that is why the politics, the leadership has not served the people. I told you, our concern is that we must have common values. Common values. Today, we don't have common values, even around criminality. Somebody commits a crime and you begin to profile the person. If he is from your place, what he has done is not a crime. No nation survives, develops and survives under such circumstances. So this is the conversation we're trying to put in the public space.
Ahmed Sajul, thank you very much. Now, the information we have is that you visited 5 of the country's 6 geopolitical zones. Neya Akinseju, tell us, what is the format of the engagements with your various audiences? And what sentiments have you also picked from these engagements?
Very, very eye-opening, Of course, we went with our own background sentiments, background perception of what we think would prevail in those places that we went to. One, we defined where to go based on what we call the catchment city or catchment capital approach. Since we cannot go to all the states in each zone, we determine which one is the central city to go to, and all delegates, we invited delegates from other states to converge, on that city. But of course, when we get to a city, for instance, when we go to Kano, we determine which of the traditional rulers, to get to see. We determine which of the political leaders we get to see, because we determine an interactive, approach to all this. We can't be relating with them in silos. If we are talking about leadership, we are talking about followership, we are talking about influence and inflection points and all that. So when we get to each of those cities, we determine those people who had, of course, influence leverages, and of course the people. In Port Harcourt, for instance, we met the chairman, the chairman in council of the traditional rulers council of the state, the river states. We met some other traditional rulers. The following day, we met an assembly of ordinary Nigerians, and there's, of course, some flavoring of political leaders and all that. Now, the background sentiments that we had, just like the convener noted, is that Nigeria, anytime you opened the normal newspaper, what jumps at you would be news about not being Nigerian, It's as if Nigeria is being pulled, in different directions. Somebody in the east is saying, no, it's supposed to be more of east. Somebody in the north is supposed to be saying that Nigeria is supposed to be more of north and all that. And when we got to this place, we realized that the average Nigerian is concerned about the unity, is concerned about this bedlam that we have created, especially in the media space, the social media and even the mainstream media. And they were excited. And of course, we also went to television stations and radio stations. We had good fortune of relating with people through the phone lines. And most calls that we received had to do with how impressed this idea is, and the fact that this is just about the time. The average Nigerian is not exactly excited with all the noise, in the public space. It's as if the silent majority, are concerned about the basic issues in government and governance, beyond, the ethnicity that we throw around, beyond the religious tendency we throw around and all that. So in fact, in Oka, and I'll tell this my personal experience, we were supposed to be in Oka on Wednesday from Port Harcourt. But we heard that there will be no movement on Tuesday because of the court matter, and that it was going to be sit at home. So we decided we had to leave Port Harcourt for Oka on Monday so that we can get in and settle in. And on Wednesday, we still meet the people. And then on Tuesday, convener said the traditional ruler there said we should come and meet him. On Tuesday, I said, no, I cannot go. In fact, my wife just called me now that if there's a sit at home, don't go anywhere. But of course,
but the convener is a warrior.
Convener said, we should go. I said, okay, let me consult with people before, because we saw the city was actually, dry. There wasn't much movement. But again, eventually, we went there. We got up. We gathered enough courage. We got on the road. We went there. We got there to a huge warm reception by the traditional ruler, the Igwe of Oka. To huge warm. In fact, they had prepared a special big award plaque, to be handed to him on behalf of the city to the Nigerian agenda, and we had a full complement of the traditional rulers in that place. Now, the following day at the assembly, where we had these other people, everybody was talking about the need for unity, and that there was too much tension in the public space, and the students were very, very excited. They were saying they were going to volunteer to go to the grassroots and start talking to people because of the messages we're sending out. I mean, they saw him more or less as a Fulani man, and here is a Fulani man, talking about unity. And of course, he was also hailing them in the language they understand. And my own proposition to Nigerians is, look, there are people telling us that we are not a nation yet. And I say, no, we are a nation. In fact, officially, but from 2014, we had spent more than 100 years, together as a country. But more than that, we have intermarried. We have exchanged cultures. Our cultures have become integrated. There are certain languages now that you won't know the source, of those languages in your own language, So when you look at those things, we are more of a people together than a diverse people. But the problem is, when election is 6 months away, we start hearing about somebody is more of Igbo, somebody is more of Hausa, somebody is more of Yoruba, and that's at the federal level. When you get to the state level, you start hearing about lesser nationalities and all that. When you get even to the world level, you still see those other divergent opinions. So can't we, as a matter of fact, be focused on how we can make our life better, our livelihood better, because that is the essence of existence. Make our livelihood better within a peaceful environment. And the way to do it is to look at the values, as Convener said. Can we have shared values of integrity? Can we have shared values of respecting ourselves? Can we have shared values of respecting and acknowledging a gentleman or a lady who has purpose and who has vision, before we decide on who to select, rather than selecting, persons because they share the same religion with us, because they share the same ethnicity with us, because we think that person is wealthy and will be able to share something from it. At the end of the day, we are the losers.
You are making a very valid point, here, if you ask me. But to take this down to the grassroots, which of course you are doing at the moment, is key to achieving the objective of this agenda. And I want to bring in once more Julius Ogunru, the consultant. You have about 50 civil society organizations that make up this coalition. Well, do you have different teams that go to different parts of the country, or is it just one team? Because for you to be able to, meet the over 250 ethnic groups in Nigeria, you need to really have, groups that will be able to do that, perhaps simultaneously, as some people are in the north, some are in the south, and southwest, as the case may be. So how are you managing these 50 civil society organizations that form the coalition?
It's the same thing, like my colleague said. We we will meet at a central point, the geopolitical capital in the zone. Then we invite other associations and to converge on that spot. But beyond this, we also have strong groups that subscribe to the ideas that we are projecting. So they now follow up. They now take the ideas further. They meet, and each time we leave a city, we leave a structure there where they can have engagement, where they can have meetings, where they can have continue with the ideas that we had projected. So we don't have to be, it's the same thing. We move from one location to another location, and if for each location, after planting the seeds of the Nigeria agenda message, we leave organizations and groups to further, plant, watering it and running with the ideas. So that's what we do. So after leaving a location, we move to another place, we plant the ideas, get organization to subscribe to it, then leave them to run with the message. So it's the same thing that moves around. But beyond that, one of my colleagues had spoken so well about what the Nigeria agenda message entails. These ideas, frankly, are not revolutionary. They are not novel in terms of our country. But the difference is that we are not just propagating these ideas for the sake of for work to do, just doing them. We are interested in true change. We are interested in this being the reality of Nigeria. That the next kind of leadership we will have in this country will reflect the ideals of the Nigerian agenda. So we are interested in the political process. We understand that people can come up with these ideas. People can do a rotation campaign. Oh, we need Nigeria to be great. We need us to share certain ideals and values. But that will not translate to change if you are not actively engaged in the process. So we are actively engaged in the political process. And particularly, we are engaged in the 2023 general elections. We will not run away from it. We want the next kind of set of leadership we have, especially for a president to have the kind of resources in terms of mental resources, in terms of energy, in terms of the attributes that reflect the Nigeria agenda message, so that we can achieve these goals, these national aspirations that we seek. If we don't do that, if we are only just making campaign for campaign's sake, it will not be different from what the National Orientation Agency or the Ministry of Information will do. Do video and campaign, or meet, do town hall and talk about, this Nigeria, this idealistic stage of Nigeria. But ours is different. We are fully involved and integrated in the political process. We are fully involved in mobilizing Nigerians to ensure that this change that we talk about is realistic. That the next set of leadership that we'll have will be those who reflect the ideals and ideas of the Nigerian agenda message. So that's why we are different.
All right,
it is not an academic or just a mere rotation campaign. We are involved and we are mobilizing Nigerians so that when we come to 2023, when we come to the general election, the set of leadership that will come out from this campaign will be those who reflect our ideas and who can run with the values that we are projecting.
But we've never had leaders in this country that were propagating disunity in the country. Everybody has always talked about national unity, that Nigeria is an indivisible nation, and what have you. And as you mentioned, the National Orientation Agency and even the Minister of Information you talked about, we've always preached one Nigeria. And I might find it a little bit difficult to know the difference between what we're doing and what they're doing.
Oh, ours is, like I said, ours is different. Maybe they didn't do a proper background check on those who came up with those who you talked about, who campaign on the basis of unity and prosperity and national ideals and go ahead to do something else. But in this case, we are going to do proper background check. We are going to ensure that those who will support, those who will say this person reflects our ideas and ideals, are truly people who reflect these ideals. And apart from just saying this, it's not just the Nigerian Agenda project and team that will do this. We are going to involve all Nigerians. We are not just, it's not a campaign, not an Abuja or Lagos campaign. It's a really grassroots campaign where people also will have to share their opinion about the kind of leadership they want for our country. We are interested in this, we are invested in it, and that, hopefully, by God's grace, the kind of president or leaders in various strata of power, with those who reflect these ideas, will mobilize Nigerians to ensure that this time around we get it right. Okay. This time around we get the kind of leader that can match, whose skills and experience match the needs of our country.
All right, thank you very much, Julius Ogunro. Once again, we invite Ahmed Sajo for his views. I want to say this because Julius has made some points on earlier Neya Kinsiju, when I asked him about the takeaways, he said that the advocacy group, the Nigeria Agenda Advocacy Group, approached the engagements with background sentiments. But that after the interactions, there were also some takeaway sentiments.
Exactly.
So I would like you to speak further.
I will speak.
Yes.
I will speak to that, and I think I was waiting for an opportunity to speak about that. One thing is that we believed that the conversations you get in the public space about differences relating to our fault lines of religion, region, and ethnicity are deep-rooted. But when we engage ordinary people at discussions, one of the takeaways we get is that Nigerians are desirous of our unity. Nigerians understand the potentials of a larger Nigeria, both in terms of our population, ethnic and diversities, and our natural diversities. That gives us a lot of advantages. But at the center of this desire for unity is also a desire for equity. That Nigerians from all backgrounds want equity in this country. They want a leadership that could treat all Nigerians equitable. In fact, all this clamor about I want my person to be is because we know that, if you don't have your person, you will not be equitably treated. So equity is a central theme. Then we know most Nigerians are really, really concerned about our transactional politics, where the only person that can become anything is the person that has money, regardless of how that money is made. And that has, to a large extent, thrown some, if you like, I can use the word misfits as leaders, because all they have is money. And some of them made the money through very dubious means. And if you make your money through dubious means, you cannot give a leadership that will confront criminality the way it should be confronted. We also know that a lot of people, and I will tell you this, it's part of our takeaways, a lot of people believe that the political leadership is creating a dependent population. And if you look at the conversations across the country, if you go to the legislature, for example, now and ask them, the first thing they will tell you, or the political leadership, ministers, commissioners, and all the appointees, they will tell you, I have to take care of my constituents. They will tell me they have wedding ceremony, they have naming ceremony. It is creating a dependent population. And a dependent population is not a productive population. Nobody, even when they are doing empowerment, you carry a sewing machine and you hand it over to somebody who has not learned anything about tailoring. The next thing the person does is to sell the machine. So you're not even creating a productive population. So people, Nigerians, want a situation where our political leadership would encourage productivity, will encourage entrepreneurship, enterprise development in the country. But we're not doing that. We're creating a dependent population. We're creating a population that believes that there's some level of entitlements that they have on the political leader, which must be fulfilled at any time they come across the political leader. So these are issues that we've been able to unearth. And I tell you also that we're taking certain things for granted at our own level as members of the ruling elite. We assume that the suspicions with which we look at each other, because we are scrambling for the little resources that the country could provide for her people, we think it's the same suspicion that ordinary people see each other with. It's not true. Barring some manipulations by political elites who want to attain positions, ordinary people want to live together in peace. They want to support each other. They want to understand each other. You can never see a Nigerian who will go to the market, and because the person selling cheaper is not from his place, he will go and buy from the person selling. It's not done that way. No Nigerian goes to the hospital and begins to ask when he is sick, that is the doctor from my place. Nobody does that. So ordinary people understand that, they can live together very peacefully.
Ahmed Sajo, thank you very much for the points that you have raised. Well, I also want to ask this question. How then do our dividers keep succeeding in aggravating our national fault lines? Neye?
It's no mystery. I think it's also rooted in history. We've had a ruling class that had understood how to manipulate us as a people over time, and that the basic way to appeal to our base sentiments is to start talking about our ethnicity, about our religious tendencies and all that. But the truth of the matter is that once in a while, there will be a consciousness like the one we are trying, to put in the public space. One, the Nigerian political environment is limited in terms of access by the average Nigerian citizen. So the level of interaction between and amongst people is limited. And because of that, the average Nigerian politician can approach, its own conclave, as it were. And then, of course, when you also look at the percentage, the ratio of registered voters and voters turnout on election day, it had always been low. So which means the Nigerian citizens are not mobilized enough, to come out. So there's already a minus, a subtraction on the capacity of the Nigerian people to translate the power they have to vote. And so, therefore, this is also part of the dividing, capacity of the Nigerian politician, as it were. And what message we always put there is that the average Nigerian politician will come in all states, across more than the 200 ethnic groups we have. And they will come and sell the attraction of the need of the people, given in that geographical space to support them. But when they get that power, when that power is invested in them, they form a small circle of multi-ethnic group leaders. And there's no problem amongst them when they have that the privilege of power, and they form it, they get formed either at the level of the National Assembly or whatever. But once there is a threat to one of them at that level, either to be removed or to be or the privilege to be taken away from them, then we start hearing a lot of noise. They want to remove me because I am so, because I am this religion, because I am this ethnic groups and all that. So what we are trying to say essentially is the need to continue to educate the Nigerian mass. Once we have been able to identify the fact that the average Nigerian person wants to live in peace with his neighbor or with our neighbor, the average Nigerian person, we have also realized, is very, very mobile, wants to move from one place to the other. The average Nigerian person wants to even marry the next person in the ethnic group relationship and all that.
So these are things you gentlemen have expressed and we do know. But as the ordinary person would say, to drill further into the kernel of this, if the average Nigerian has this behavioral pattern, has this disposition, why then does the average Nigerian keep succumbing to the toxic messaging from our dividers?
And that is why I want to bring in the issue of politicians. In what you're doing, I want to believe, quite frankly, that if politicians are not involved in this drive for a new consciousness, to impact on Nigerian citizens, then of course we. Well, I don't wish you. I'm not trying to be pessimistic here, but the point is that politicians drive the cost of development, even knowledge, understanding of our people, their behavioral pattern, their thinking, and what have you. They drive it. And this occasion, that election is at the corner, and there will be an electioneering campaign and what have you. You will see how gullible the average
consultant has raised the connect.
He
has raised the connect.
Yes. So now, what is the connection now? Are you talking to politicians as well?
In addition to what Lee said about to the question he asked about why Nigerians are easily divided, from what we gathered from traveling around the country, people seem connected and just want unity. I think the main issue is that the Nigerian identity is weak. The Nigerian identity. Every individual, every Nigerian has several identities. I'm a man, gender identity, age demography, ethnic identity, religious identity, several identities. You also have the Nigerian identity. But among these identities, the weakest is the Nigerian identity. It is the weakest. When you ask somebody, he's more likely to say he's Yoruba or he's a Christian or a Muslim or a Fulani. It's more connected to those identities than even the Nigerian identity. It's probably when we are playing football or when we travel overseas that the Nigerian identity gets promoted or it's very obvious in our life. So the Nigerian identity is weak. During elections, what politicians in a locale they do is to promote those other identities. They promote the ethnic identity, us versus them. They promote the religious identity. They promote those other identities, but rarely the Nigerian identity. But we can't run away from it. We are all Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, but we have the Nigerian identity. It is the identity of our nationality. You understand it? So that's what we have. In the question you asked about if we are talking to politicians, we have been beaten so many times that we have average Nigerians have a very negative perception to politics and to politicians. But you cannot run away from it. It is politics that decides everything in the country. It isn't over economy, even really anything you could take. It is politics. And the top of it is political leadership. Because it has failed severally and because it has not worked, doesn't mean it cannot work. In all the countries, in all the societies that have made giant leap, it is political leadership that transformed those countries. If you talk about Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, if you talk about Luiz Inácio da Silva of Brazil, you talk about Jinping Xi it is political leadership. If you don't get it right in politics and political leadership, you cannot transform your society. So if we just want to do a campaign for campaign's sake, we will not talk to politicians. We'll just be talking to Nigerians like NOA will do or Ministry of Information. But if you really want to have change, real change, you have to deal with politics. You have to engage politicians. And we are doing that. We're engaging the political space. Each of the locations we've been to, we've talked to ordinary Nigerians, we've talked to traditional leaders, we've also talked with politicians. We are also meeting with politicians and seeing those values might reflect and be similar to what we are projecting. If we just want to engage in academic exercise and move around and talk, that's fine. But if you don't engage politics, you don't try to get politics involved in what you do when you intend to transform the society, you will fail. You will not get it right.
What are the politicians telling you?
Oh, no, we also have people who we are looking at whose values and ideas seem to come close to what we are projecting. When the time comes, we'll look at all these issues, look at all these politicians and see the ones that we can work with. If you don't engage them, if you don't move with them, if you don't talk to them, you're just wasting your time. If you get somebody, we have spoken so well about the values that are associated with our group, about the ideas we are projecting. If we get somebody by chance, God forbid, that his values and ideas are the opposite of what we are projecting, it will be bad for our country. So we would have failed. We don't make laws. We are not in the National Assembly to be able to make laws or the executives to be able to make policies for governance. It is these politicians that will do this same thing. So if we get somebody who is anti-Nigeria agenda project, it is bad for our country. So we try to seek people whose values, whatever party they belong to, whatever ideas, whatever they may come from, whatever religion they profess, if their values, their ideas suit what we are projecting, we'll tend to support them and mobilize Nigerians to support them when the time is ripe. But if we don't engage politics, we'll just be engaging in academic.
I was taking in the direction of asking you the agenda advocacy to metamorphose into a political party.
No.
To begin to change.
No. We will not.
Even if you have such an intention, you will not qualify for the 2023 election.
No, we don't have that. That's not.
You know why I say that is this. The political parties that we have today are going to present representatives, or candidates, at different strata of the power equation, and whoever they bring is the people that are going to be voted for or against. So how do you I don't know, how do you ensure that those that will emerge from different political parties are well profiled to meet the quality of Nigerians as you are talking about that you want the voters to vote for? Because if they
Well,
bring
we are trying to build a mass organization. We are trying to build an organization from bottom up, an organization that will be so powerful that even the political parties will mind what we say. That is what we are trying to do. You will mind what we say. We will have an organization that is so strong, that is so powerful, that is so influential that the political parties will understand, will mind what we say. We will have influence over their choices. That's what we want to do. That's why we are going around and mobilizing
And
Nigerians.
interestingly, all the parties are talking to us. I mean, most of the parties are talking to us. We're talking. They're talking to us. Even the emerging third force, they're reaching out to us.
Okay, all right, please, let's get this clear. At the end of the day, and that day, could have some finite period, what are the expected outcomes from this Nigeria agenda advocacy?
Well, at the end of the day, we should be able to say, Nigerians, this is what we have built over time. If you are going to vote for anybody, we think you should look at this way. These are the things you should consider before you adopt anybody, at whatever level as your leader. We will be able to be specific about the kind of values attribution, in whoever that is going, to contest and whoever the Nigerian people would want to vote for or elect. And most importantly, have more Nigerians go out and vote. I think that's, if the more people you are able to persuade to go out and vote, of course, the one that would have achieved one of our values, political consciousness. So talking about the mass mobilization we are talking about now, it's not just in numbers, it's also about consciousness, and you are concerned about the politicians, in this calculation. I think for the Nigerian politician, is also in awe of the Nigerian people. It is just like Oga Kingsley said. Why are they still, being able to divide us, to divide the Nigerian people? It is because there is that area of least resistance, from the people. You don't have a people yet that are able to factually, and perhaps even in terms of sentiments, sophistication, question and answer the average politician appeal to their base sentiments. So what we are trying to do is to reinforce, that understanding of the dynamics in the political space, and to let the average Nigerian people know that, one, you are the chief recruitment officer. That is one. Two, to let politicians know that there is a need to respect the people, And two, let the politicians know that in going forward, we will no longer tolerate issues talking to ethnicity and religion. And yes, we are talking about 2023, but 2023 specifically, but 2023 and beyond. So if we are able to attain a certain percentage of cognitive recognition of the sentiments we are talking about in 2023, we want to be able to increase that to another threshold level by 2027. And
But
it's going
I
on
think
like that.
the end game is that we will not lack the courage to say Mr. A, Kingsley or Kirian is good enough to provide the kind of values that we think Nigerians deserve, at this point in time. We will not shy away from that.
I should go and submit my form.
Exactly.
Okay, I like what Lee said. He said that the citizens are the chief recruitment officers.
Yes.
Exactly, and that's when the vote counts.
And
you
so
know.
we will profile the applicants.
Applicants.
We will serve as
All right.
consultants to the chief recruitment officers, and we'll profile the applicants and present to them.
All right.
This applicant is qualified.
I think I'm getting the sentiment right, this time around. But I think you also need to do a lot of job, to instill this, in our system, because it's all about having a new consciousness,
That's
okay. All right, let's take a short break now. When we come back, we'll continue with the conversation.
All right, you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We still have our guests with us discussing the Nigeria Agenda Advocacy. Ahmed Saja, let me ask this question.
Yes, sir.
With regard to what you said at the beginning, namely that there is a lot of hot air generated by political aspirants, and that this hot air is affecting the appropriate messaging about Nigeria and Nigerians. From your interactions in the 5 zones that you have visited, what again did you pick up as to how we might dislodge the toxic messaging currently in our stratosphere?
I think this is a very tough one, and I must tell you, because the background to this toxic messaging is the creation of unnecessary fear amongst people. That, you are under threat from this group. Each group is told that they are under threat from the other group. But we have seen also that these things just multiply. Don't forget, when we had 3 regions, there were concerns about the fact that some people are marginalized. We became 4 regions. The marginalization discussion continued. We now became 12 states. The marginalization thing was shared into 12 states and it continued. We became 19. Further division of the marginalization cry. We became 21, then 30, then 36. Till today, within communities, we were passing from, we were leaving Port Harcourt for Oka. We got to one community. We saw soldiers on both sides of the road. We were told that the people on this side of the road cannot even be allowed to marry people from the other side of the road. And that the crisis in that area, it's a recurring thing every day. We were in Oka, around the airport in Oka, if you go, you will see soldiers and policemen, but they were not having guns. They were just having sticks. And I asked, they said, well, this is around Aguleri, Umuleri area. If they send any security man with arms, they will seize the arms from them. The Leri people are one people, but every now and then they clash. It's the same thing if you go, the bandits and the kidnappers and the rest in the Northwest are of the same ethnic stock, the same religious stock, with the people they murder, with the people they kidnap, the people they inflict hardships on. So by and large, all this noise, all this insecurity, all this fear that we create amongst ourselves as different groups exists also within the groups themselves. So the way to diffuse this toxic messaging is to begin to actually put the conversation within context. Well, I mean, if people of the same ethnic groups could go out at each other's throats, why are you afraid? In fact, I felt more like he was telling you, they were saying nobody should go out. I told them, I said, look, anybody that does not have a reason, sufficient reason for which he's ready to lay his life, has no reason to even live. I am committed to this project. If that is going to be the cause of my death, I'm ready. I am going. And they were just joking, say, you are a warrior. I said, no, I have always been one. And we went. And instead of being confronted by people who would have murdered, we went and met an elaborate ceremony with kingmakers, over 30 of them in their regalia and things like that. So there are a lot of fear we create within ourselves that don't actually exist. You know, we met a retired Assistant Inspector General of Police who was born and raised in Nasarawa State, who served in the north, but he's living peacefully because he's from Oka and he's a member of the Igwe's council. And he told us, look, all these fears that the political class are creating amongst our people are false. So what we're trying to do is prove to Nigerians that there is no suspicion amongst us. But we cannot reach there. We cannot, it's the leadership that will show. That's why as the convener, I always, try to put myself in a situation where I could lead by example. If I am afraid, if I show fear, Ni and Co will also show fear. If I refuse to go forward, they may not go forward. This is the kind of leadership we're advocating for. A leadership that would really lead. Like they tell you that I'm not afraid of a group of lions led by a sheep, but I'm afraid of a group of sheep led by a lion. That is how we want Nigeria to be. A leadership that is a lion in the true sense of it.
Toxic messaging and how it can be diffused. For your sentiments to actually permeate, the fabric of society, are you also involving all these local groups like women groups, market associations, and there are several groups in different communities to also assist in taking down the message, to the grassroots?
Yeah, of course, those are primary targets, really. But we are also going to lift beyond that. Our next level now will also be about talking to political leaders, We'll find a way of also engaging governors, because we also need political leaders to put their voice in the public space, to reinforce what we are talking about. Have political, either they mean it or not, rather than continue to pollute the public space with base sentiments. Can we have more of the positive sentiments? And perhaps we can prompt that by visiting them, by talking to them. And of course, by also the media also carrying those kind of messages. So that at least for once, we can start having an obvious dilution of those extremes, those messages that pull us in different directions. So we're going to do, that's our next level. We're also actually looking at the irredentist groups, the restructuring groups and all that, to say that we are all driving towards the same objective, but can we be more conciliatory in the way we are going about it? The message is, can we reduce the tension and the inflammation of the public space in a way that if we are sending out a message, we should be conscious of the kind of language we couch those messages in, So we are going to engage all these, well, they are not warlords, these groups that have their own, grouse with how the Nigerian state is presently configured. And the idea is, this is our idea. For us, it is one Nigeria. And I know so many groups that also blow so much here that they are also talking about one Nigeria, but in a different way. Well, can we also get into that space and start talking about one Nigeria from these different ways without inflaming sentiments and passion?
Okay, I know that we're getting to wrap up this conversation. I just want to bring Sajo back to the issue of transactional politics. Now, the political class is one of the critical audiences that your messaging will be important to. And you've had the benefit of working with politicians, but you do know the mindset of a number of politicians. As we are talking, their sights are trained on 2023. You say, you don't know what you are talking about. We are talking about election. You are coming here to be telling me about X, Y, Z. After the election, come back. That's part of the transactional nature, the investment that they think that they need to make now so that they can reap bountifully in 2023. What concerns them is power and how to win that power sometimes, by fair or foul means. So how this would appear to be a bit deep-rooted in our political engagements. How can we begin to whittle down the disposition? Because some of the politicians who do this don't often realize that whatever office you hold, there's an expiration date.
I think the greatest danger to our democracy is this transactional politics. Political activities, political campaigns, seeking for political office had become an enterprise. And only the person with very deep pockets, unending deep pockets, can attain political office. But we're connecting with the people. We're asking them, you cannot continue to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. If you take the campaign messaging, 1957, 1959, 1963, and you compare it with 79, 99, and to date, everything you will see there are still the same. I will provide you electricity. We have not been provided electricity. I will make all the roads in Nigeria tied. All the roads in Nigeria are not tied. I will give you railways. It's only now railways are coming back in the country. I will provide you water. We still don't have potable water. So why, if we are every year, every 4-year cycle, our politicians come and promise the same thing and they don't deliver, means that our transactional politics is not paying us. So why don't we start looking at other models? And the model we are putting across is that, look for the capacity of the person. Look for the energy. Look for his pedigree. Look for what he has done in the past and see if that reflects the kind of thing that you want. I give you an example. There is one issue that is an embarrassment to Nigeria. We have the highest number of out-of-school children today anywhere in the world. And yet, it's not a general thing. There are states in this country where they have been able to achieve nearly 98% of all their children in school. If we'll take that, for example, as our guiding principle, has the person we want to lead us, has he been able to address this issue of out-of-school children? There is hunger, poverty. Are there poverty alleviation or templates that we could copy? There is insecurity. What is the person's background with respect to addressing issues of security? So we look at all the issues that concern Nigerians and we put them on the table and begin to tick against persons who want to. And then we tell Nigerians, if you transact with a politician to put him into power, you are transacting away your future. You're going to continue to complain of NEPA. You're going to continue to have accidents on potholes on your roads. You're going to continue to complain about bandits. You're going to complain about insurgency. So do away with the transactional politics, face the politics of capacity, face politics of ability, face politics of background checking. You may get out of this crisis. So this is what we're trying to say.
Let me ask Oguru to speak on this now. That's the issue of equity, fairness, and the lack of inclusiveness. This is also part of the reason why some Nigerians feel that they have been, neglected or ignored, in the scheme of things, in appointments, in political positions, and even in offices, in elevation, promotion of persons from their ethnic groups is also part of the reason why people say, look, I identify myself more of where I come from than being a Nigerian. So now, in this advocacy you are talking about, and you talked about the fact that you are talking to politicians too, how would you be able to do this to change the narrative and what exists presently with respect to lack of equity, fairness, and inclusiveness in the system, which of course our convener here actually raised at the first instance?
You're right. That's the reality of the Nigerian political experience. We are not going to paper the crack. It is the reality of our life now. But it didn't start with this administration. It's been on. We've always complained about inequity, lack of inclusiveness, lack of fairness, lack of justice. It's been on forever. And we spoke earlier about the issue about transactional politics. I'm a bit realistic and pragmatic. I don't think it will change just right now because of this campaign we are doing. We are trying to change this thing, but we barely have very short time. In fact, by next month, the political process based on the new Electoral Act would start. So what we are saying is this, that we can have an exception. The Chinese say that a leader should be a Sunzi, that is somebody of high moral and exceptional moral and characteristics, should not be of the average in the society. You understand? So we could have a system that is entrenched in tribalism, in inequity, in religious, whatever it is, challenges we have. But we could have somebody who does not represent the average, who is exceptional in terms of moral conduct, who is exceptional in terms of experience, in terms of energy. That is the kind of leadership you have. So while all these issues that we are dealing with are still here, are still present, we could have somebody who is outstanding, who does not represent the average. Then through his actions and conduct will point society towards a better way of doing things. So I'm not going to lie to you that we are going to change Nigeria within these 2 or 3 months, that everything is going to change because of this campaign. But because of this campaign, we could get somebody of these exceptional abilities who will now point us to better way. And gradually we'll have incremental change over time. That is what we are looking at. If we have a Sunzi...
Julius Ogunro, consultant to the Nigeria Agenda Advocacy, would like to appreciate your being our guest on Good Morning Nigeria today. We also would like to thank Mr. Ney Akinsiju, Chief Advocate of the Nigeria Agenda. And last but not